My name is Lindsay Hill. I use she, her pronouns. I am a mom of four. I turned 40 this year, which was a big part of my impetus of reflecting differently on my life. It seems very cliche, 40, midlife crisis kind of situation. And I don't think of it at all as a crisis. I feel like I'm in a deeper and more intense season of awakening. And that work around awakening means facing really hard truths. When I think back to last year, I was barely surviving. I weighed far more. I was almost at 230 pounds than I was when I gave birth to our fourth child. There was just kind of a gradual, I had a very bad ankle injury. I couldn't walk for months. All of the COVID, all of the factors kind of converging at once. And before you know it, you're in a body that you don't recognize anymore, that you don't know. Particularly for me as a former athlete and increasingly athlete again, it feels like your body's betraying you when you can't do the things that it's always done. So it wasn't just the weight, it was my orientation to myself, my body. It didn't feel like my partner. It didn't feel like me. When I was running marathons, like, your body so well. You're so checked into your body. So for me to get to a place where I didn't look at myself, I didn't know how much I weighed, I kept, you buy the sweatpants. Or is that just me? We buy the sweatpants, right? We buy the
all buy the sweatpants. It is not just you.
And in a period of my life where I was like, if this is how I feel at 40, what is 60 going to feel like? What's 80 going to feel like? God willing, what is 100 going to feel like? This is the time to pull it together. In my life previously, when I've quote unquote lost weight and gotten my act together, it was always through physical activity. And as you know, the most intense physical activity. And so for the first time in my life, realizing if I want to do this in a different way, and I actually want this to be my way of being moving forward, then I can't just rely on the physical activity. There have to be bigger changes, which means I have to lean into some really hard truths, which means I actually need support. It was clear that you bring such a holistic lens. In all of my experiences around wellness, generally in the traditional medical system, outside of the traditional medical system, it's always like treating a symptom. And the way that you described the work it's all connected. So I think just the orientation, and I think when we realize that it's all connected, then we can get to the root cause. And so it felt like this is going to be a root cause experience, which then by definition will be life-changing. There's a piece of love that you talked about from the start. And I'm a person who loves love and loves talking about love, and at work has had people say, I don't think you can put love in that document. And it's like, guess what? Love lives in this document. The word's staying in. And I know it sounds so woo-y to some people, but I didn't love myself. And you from the start anchoring in, this is about loving ourselves. The love of self and the honoring of self felt really authentic and really different. It's like when your orientation shifts from what's wrong with me to what's beautiful about me, or just what's me, period. And so then I think I could almost see each piece of, this is a body of work I need to lean into more. This is a conversation I need to have with this person. This is a book that I really want to read and go deeper in because it's a concept I'm struggling with. But when I'm approaching it from a whole, I'm already whole, I've lost that. How do I find it again versus I'm broken and something's wrong with me? How do I fix myself? Those are two very different orientations. I was already a whole being, and it is not my fault that I lost parts of myself. And I'm on a journey to regain those pieces, and I'm not going to be perfect, and that's okay. My other, I think, big aha in the work with you was around identity and around wholeness of identity, because I think I particularly given my identity as a Black woman, I have felt like I cannot be whole until these systems of oppression are dismantled.
Mm-hmm.
Like my work, my job, my whole life is dedicated to dismantling these systems. How dare I pause and take care of myself and try to become more whole when the world is literally and figuratively on fire? And that mindset is exactly perpetuating my own demise. Like that was the aha of, oh my gosh, this is exactly what capitalism and patriarchy and white supremacy want me to be doing and believing, that I cannot take care of myself. I must do all of these things first. And so that shift of I am already whole, I just need to access things. And the most revolutionary thing I can do is invest in myself, was like, oh,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, as you called it, the rebel energy. It was like, oh shit, if I just direct that toward myself, oh yeah, okay. Well, it goes back to again, love, because if my identity is I'm a person who loves myself and treats me like I love myself, treats me like I love myself all of the time,
Mm-hmm.
then I don't eat gluten, because gluten hurts my body, literally and figuratively hurts me. So I don't eat that then. Not, oh my gosh, I miss pizza so much. Like that, those are two radically different mindsets. And that amount of self-love of I choose to treat myself this way because I love myself, particularly for BIPOC people, particularly for women, it's like our our ancestors are asking us to take care of ourselves right now. Like this is the work, is actually reshaping how we think about our identities in connection to our labor, our worth in connection to our labor, our humanity in connection to things outside of us. And there are so many spaces where we're being invited as a species to evolve. The beginning of the year, like after those ahas, it was like, I've got this. Look, I said I was going to transform at 40. I'm transforming. It's all beautiful and joyful and wonderful. And then July hit and it was like, and this is the shitty part of transformation. Like, this is the really hard part. And I don't know why I was expecting only the joyful, beautiful part. Like,
yeah,
it cannot possibly be true that the caterpillar experiences no discomfort as it transforms into a butterfly. There's got to be some form of like, what the fuck is happening? You know, like, but for some reason I expected myself to miss that. And so what's been powerful in working with you through that is, particularly during a really dark month where I said to you, I'm actually having some suicidal ideation. And you're like, cool. We are like, this plan we are on doesn't matter. What do we need? My past orientation would be like, I'm throwing us off. We're supposed to be talking about, I was supposed to watch this. I was supposed to read this. I was supposed to do this. And to be able to just have a presence and a thought partner to be there during that time and to remind you and to reflect why you're doing this. And that, yeah, shit gets hard. And again, we don't need to be perfect. I've needed that as much as I've needed the ahas that led to the good times. I've needed actually to be able to maintain on a path in the hardest of times, particularly related to my weight and my eating of the cheese. To have not gained weight during this period would have never happened before. Again, that shows the level of transformation, that it was, no, I drink my bone broth at 11 a.m. every day. That's what I do. You know, like, what are those anchors that I want to eat salad again, because this is a really shitty time and I want to give my body the best fuel that I can in this moment. Or I'm going to eat that goddamn dessert because, you know what? I don't typically do this anymore. And it doesn't typically actually sound good, but it does tonight. So I'm going to trust that instinct and I'm going to eat it and I'm going to feel great about it. The technical tools that you provide, but also just that adaptive human and relational support. It's so easy to like think about these journeys as you finish. And you never finish. And it always gets harder than you think it's going to. And that's when we revert back. So to be able to go through an experience and to not revert back,
Yeah.
that's the most powerful part, I think. Like, I feel like then you layer on the myth of, and we have to do it alone or we aren't strong. Why should I invest in another human to support me in something I feel like I should just be able to do and I can't? And then you realize none of us are supposed to be able to do this alone. And so it's, how do you drop the perfection and allow others to hold you in the moments of imperfection? Like my conditioning was sports. I was never not on a team. And so I also never developed, this is how I move my body naturally. There was always a coach. There was always a schedule I was on. There was always a season. There was always and then I discovered running after my divorce, and marathon. I mean, it's like, it's only intense. You can't really run a marathon and have it not be intense because the training is, again, so regimented. So this was the first time where it's, how do I move?
Yeah.
And what if it's not the way I've always done it? Because what if with my ankle, what if I can't ever run like that again? Focusing on a different mechanism for personal transformation than the rote one I'd always used that never fully worked. It created space for me to actually, without even meaning to in some ways, test new ways of moving my body. After so long of making fun of people who do stand-up paddleboarding, I realized it's awesome and I like it.
It is awesome.
I got the Peloton when I couldn't run. After making fun of people with Pelotons, I think there's a theme that we're picking up on here. Really, the only classes I do on it are 30 minutes or less. I've never done anything over 30 minutes, which in my mind before would be like, why are you even, what's the point?
What's the point? Yeah.
You're not going to do something for an hour. Why on earth? So what's been beautiful about the Peloton specifically is I choose the really intense hill climbs, but I do it for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 at the most. I've been able to understand what is the difference between stand-up paddleboarding and this intense, like, what am I getting from the intense activity? What is it from that I do want to keep without throwing the whole thing away, which I would have done in the past. Oh, maybe I don't run this intensely. Boop. Nope. Now I'm a rower,
Yeah.
Almost every time I do it, I start sobbing. And what that intense exercise does give me is an actual physical release that I don't get in other places, because when my body is working that hard, my brain fully has to lose control. And so it's like, oh shit, what an aha to have in this year, that I'm probably never going to run a marathon again. Let's just put that to bed. We love old Lindsay, who thought she was going to run one in every state. We're letting go of that former dream. But 15 minutes on a Peloton that makes me like sob or scream or whatever is so good for my mental health. And is that happy medium that you're talking about? It's not perfection and it's not nothing. 15 minutes is not nothing, but in my mind, it used to be. And that's what's so interesting about working with you. Like, you see the impacts in so many areas of your life. I've come to you for a very specific reason, but the ripple effect of that is just amazing in terms of how I move my body differently, and then how my entire family moves our bodies differently, right? How I eat differently, and over time, my family is eating differently.
I was relating so much to what you were saying with the 15 minutes on the Peloton, because that's how I run. I do hill sprints. I sprint uphill and then I sprint downhill.
Nice.
It's that kind of high intensity experience. And very specifically and very quickly, I realized that I do that because it helps tap me into my power. I feel how powerful I can be when I turn it on like that. And so I use it as a tool in my life. When I start to slip into powerlessness, or, maybe even victim mentality, or any of those things, and I use that running specifically to remind me of who I am. And it's not all the time, and it doesn't need to be all the time, but I was definitely relating to that feeling of like, it is therapeutic, It can be very therapeutic. And
Mhm.
the beauty is being able to know why you're doing this, what it gives to you, and then when and how to pull that tool out of your tool belt when you know that you need it.
See, this is just a testimonial world. And Karuna also just changed my life with that comment. Like, that's exactly what it is. It is finding my power. That's what's also so powerful about coaching. Again, it's that mirror where, you have a space to say, this is what I got out of this. And then Karuna can highlight, that's actually a tool you're naming. And guess what? You can use it anytime. And it's like, holy shit, I can. I am not going to cry. I love my body again. And I think also, though, I'm realizing that did I ever? You look back at the pictures and you're like, oh, that poor human thought she was overweight,
Oh, yeah.
like, and you're like, what? Where? Like, give me the body now and let me show you what I'll do with it.
Totally.
I look back and I wonder, I didn't love my body then either. I was constantly trying to change it. I was constantly finding the area that wasn't blah, 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 blah. Or as an athlete, it was like, I have no fucking calves and I'm a basketball player. Like, I have to work on body parts to actually be better at my sport. Even in that situation where I was taking very, very good care of my body, there were still parts of your body that fail you or not. Like, my relationship with my knees and my ankles has always been challenging. Where I am now is I genuinely love my body. I don't just love it because of how it looks. I can still tell you if you ask me right now, like, oh, what are the parts of your body that you're not, fully in love with? And I'll be like, bloop, bleep, bloop, blah, blah. I think that there's a reverence. Like, I think I have a reverence. That's the word. I feel like the cliche my dad used to tell me as a kid that I never internalized, which is that my body is a temple. Like, my body is holy.
Yeah.
My body houses, I chose this body, and my body houses this spirit that is meant to do really important shit in this lifetime. And thankfully, this body to this point has allowed me to do that. This body has naturally birthed 4 babies. This body has run 5 marathons. This body hikes in the forest that this body allowed this person to work hard enough to purchase. And just reminding myself that it actually doesn't fucking matter what I look like.
Yeah.
I don't actually care what I look like. I care what I feel like. And that's the biggest, it's a reverence for me. It's a gratitude. There was actually, you can cut this part out if you want. There was actually a period in this where I was like, I'm going to make a lot of love to myself because
I am not kidding.
Hello, everyone.
Are you feeling this?
Have we seen what's happening? Because I'm here for it. But even that, like, that type of exploration, again, like, I went from not looking at or touching my body for 2 years, maybe, as soon as my son stopped nursing, to touch every part of your body, learn new parts of your body, like, look at your body in different ways. Just like walking around, I mean, not around my children or, whatever, walking around naked in the forest, just being naked in the sun.
Oh,
That's something that I would have robbed myself of in the past. Why? You allowed me to reintroduce me to me. Like, hi, Lindsay. Do you remember Lindsay? Really, like, let's take some time to get to know this body and this being I've made so many assumptions about. I've projected so much self-loathing onto, or inadequacies, or not enoughness. And like, what does it look like to actually get to know who I really am? I've only been able to do the things that I've been able to do because I've lost almost 60 pounds. There was a significant amount of weight loss, but did we ever talk about a number on, I told you during one meeting, it's been 50 pounds now. And you were like, what?
Yes.
Yeah. And I moved on and you were like, pause, please. I'm sorry.
We're used to being met in diet culture with numbers first, weight loss first, extreme change first. none of the foundational things that actually matter are
Mhm.
ever addressed. And so it does feel a little bit out of the ordinary
Mhm.
to not focus on it and then yet still see it happen.
Last November,
Yeah.
weighing myself, and it was, like I said, almost 230. And it was just like, that's when I developed my 40 by 40 plan. And my plan was to lose 40 pounds before I turned 40. And I started talking to you in January, and I didn't, my birthday was in April, and I didn't hit it, and I didn't care. And that was important too, because if I had hit 40 alone and not hit my goal, it would have been devastating. So yeah, I feel like there were those months of like, we're really just getting into the root causes. And that's when I was saying to you, I'm going to start running. I'm going to eat this every day. I'm never going to eat this again. And you were just like, just come back and let's have the real conversation. And then when the gut health protocol started, that's then when it was like, oh shit, I can tell that this is working. And I never thought about my weight again, ever. I went to the practitioner who did the full belly exam, and she found no inflammation, no symptoms of leaky gut. I mean, everything that I had that I was so scared about because of Crohn's running in my family.
Yeah.
All of those concerns are gone. The internal work can't happen if you won't be honest. And so there was, it's like, yes, it's that you buy a Costco sized gorgonzola cheese container, and then you find yourself in the literally as like far into the refrigerator as you could be, eating it with your fingers. And it's like, I have to tell someone I'm doing that, because actually I don't even know if my partner knows I do that. Probably does, because who comes back with their fingers smelling like blue cheese? Me. You have to tell someone what you're doing. You can't change something if you can't name it. And sometimes what I found is I would name things to you that I had not thought of. I had never thought about before that moment. And that's where we need community. We need coaching. We need a mirror. We need someone who is really good at holding space, not because that person has all of the answers. You have so many incredible tools and practices, but it's the people who can allow you to come up with your own answers that were there, but you just couldn't name them because you couldn't name the harm that you were perpetuating either.
For people who are raised and identify as women in our society, there's this expectation of martyrdom that is then overlaid with kind of a lack of power, inequity, and then overlaid with guilt and shame for lack of perfection. Being able to have a space where you can be in all of that truth and know that you won't be judged, and know that the space that's being held for you is still and always continuously resting in that ocean of self-love, and having the gift of somebody reminding you of that.
All of what for me was lost in the layering and the layering and the layering is trusting myself.
Oh yeah.
I didn't trust myself, and I didn't trust myself for good reason, because I broke my own promises to myself time and time and time and time again. And so like, this was also a space for me to like, in some ways, learn to trust myself again, because the other aha that I had with you was that the reason I was never able to set boundaries in my life was because I didn't love myself. People who love themselves know how to lovingly set boundaries. The first person I needed to start setting boundaries with was me.
Yeah. Oh,
and
yes.
And doing that out of love, not out of control, but out of love or guilt or shame or victimhood or whatever it is, right? I now trust myself again. Am I perfect? No. Do I fundamentally trust myself? Yes. And that's life-changing.
Is there anything, for anybody watching this or listening to this, do you have any, if they're kind of sitting at home and maybe feeling the way you were feeling, what advice or what words of wisdom or what would you share with them?
Investing in ourselves is the most important investment we can make. We are all here uniquely to do beautiful, important things. And looks different for all of us. But I think for anyone who is wondering, do I have the time? Is it worth the financial commitment? Is it like all of those? No, none of those are ever going to go away. There's never going to be a perfect time. And the perfect time to prioritize ourselves is always yesterday or the day before or the day before. It's never tomorrow. And again, it doesn't have to be an all or nothing thing. And my experience with you is like, let's design something that works versus this is what I offer and this is what I call and blah, blah, blah. Taking the first step in trusting yourself to invest in yourself and to find the right guides, the right team around you, because the world needs all of us to be fully in our purpose, fully joyful and fully loving of ourselves. It's the only way we're going to get through this moment of potentially pre-apocalyptic times. All right, I had to say apocalypse once in this interview.
I relish every opportunity to gush over you because I just just enamored by your sheer strength, your clarity and dedication to the wholeness of this world, and witnessing your process in coming back home to your body and coming back home to your wholeness in order to fulfill that purpose, that incredible obvious purpose that you have in this world has just been such an incredible experience for me as well. So I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for what you do and what you hold and what you help create and birth in the world.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you.